this is the first podcast of the Madding Machine website. No specific name for it. It's just a simple podcast for talking about politics, social issues, stances on, all different types of things that are going on in the world, media, anything really. And today we have someone who's a friend. His name's Charlie.
Hello.
And well, first of all, we're gonna, introduce ourselves basically and explain where we stand on politics, and then I'll start by asking questions, and we'll move on from there. So I would call myself right wing. I did vote Conservative. However, I do have some liberal views and some older liberal views on some things. It is complicated when it comes to explaining if you're right, left, middle, far right, far left, whatever. Because it's kind of muddy in a way with all this, explaining of where you are, where you stand. But yeah, I would say I'm mainly right wing. So yeah, it's pretty much where I stand, and you'll probably, as we go on through all these conversations, you'll probably see, more of a clear view where, how we actually stand. But Charlie, where would you like to?
Yeah, of course. I find myself either being liberal one day, right wing another, and I think generalizing my view of where I place on that spectrum, political spectrum, I think I am in between. I'm neither left nor am I right. I think you could quote quite a lot about Ben Shapiro. He does say for the most part he's conservatist, but
yeah.
He can change from either or depending on policies that particular presidents or prime ministers will address to. I find myself being the same way because I remember going through college and going through my adolescence. I would always be voting for the people, for the work hard men. My dad, he's a sign maker, and he's always had those kind of views, saying how the government never seemed to address the public that are, I would have to say, blue collar workers.
Yeah.
So I'm part of that background, but it was only not too long ago, this Brexit thing that happened, and I had to vote Conservative because we believed the policies was to get out of Europe and to be able to address immigration better and to have more power over that. And the main thing that my father always taught me was about culture death, and it's a real thing, and it's happened in India. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people say I must support UKIP. There's a lot of what UKIP does that I don't agree with, but again, so like you said right from the start of this podcast, is that politics and having your view and your decision to be on what side is very muddy.
Yeah, it's really confusing and quite volatile to talk about, where you stand or your views on things. But I would say the same, that my parents came from a very liberal, left-leaning background, and it's only, back in 2016 when Brexit was happening that it just made, it made sense to get out of Europe, get out of this giant, this giant, basically corporation almost. It's this bureaucratic system that is quite unfair. It says, it sounds nice. It's quite, it sounds like it's for the people. It's to make countries better. It's to bring people together. It's a
union, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a union. It's a global effort, but it's not. Europe takes money from countries like, going off a bit here, but I read something about when the coronavirus first happened. When countries had to shut down in Europe, Italy had to shut down its tourism, and because money wasn't coming in from that, Europe fined them, or said, you owe us this amount of money since you've closed down your tourism. You're not making enough money for us, so we want this. So it's quite sinister, at the roots.
Yeah, it's a powerhouse. It's quite a monstrous, gigantic power that is. It's got a lot of its influence held over a lot of countries.
Yeah.
A lot of countries are struggling, actually, and they struggle in the most implicit sense. You probably can if you do the research, which a lot of people say nowadays, do the research. But there are some sinister facts, like you say, where you start to see the European Union as a manifestation of gigantism, which is an even bigger problem, right?
Yeah.
It starts to rear its ugly head.
Yeah, it's quite a scary thing, and also with the their push to make a European army as well. This big
don't get me started.
global army. But yeah, I guess that kind of addresses where we stand and what we think.
Yeah, and like as I was saying before, this is the idea of leaving the European Union is that they have the authority to withhold particular policy changes in countries into a more of a smaller level of systems, like where we're not allowed to just push any kind of immigration policy without the European Union say so. These small things are really important. Like they seem to be small, but they've got a lot of power behind it, and one little policy, one decision to make in the cabinet can be vital to a country.
Yeah, it's quite nasty actually when it comes down to it, because with all the Brexit talks that have been going on behind the scenes at the moment as well, like Barnier is it's quite nasty when it comes down to the fishing waters, British fishing waters.
Yeah.
And I remember it was last year where French fishing boats, like, because they have a set time with these fishing waters now where certain countries are allowed to fish at this time, and then another country has to come in and then fish at that time.
Oh, okay. So it's like a marital law.
Yeah. And I think I can't remember who was in the wrong, whatever, but basically French fishermen were in the waters, and then English boats came along, and the French started basically ramming them and throwing things at the fishing boats, saying, no, you're not fishing here right now, we're still fishing.
What?
I'll have to
way.
find that and put that up on the website, because that was quite insane. But yeah, I think they're still arguing about the fishing waters, but hopefully it'll come down to a no deal, which will be more beneficial for us, which is what I want.
So yeah, Brexit has been a massive influence over our lives in the UK. USA have definitely acknowledged that as well. There was a few comments Donald Trump made, and he made a visit. He supported that. I do think me and you both on the same view here. It's really important to have your own system of government that are free and have that autonomy to to be able to make these decisions like a normal government should. It shouldn't be under an even bigger structure that is European Union.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like it goes into our parliament and then it has to go to a bigger parliament in another country, and then they go, no. It's like, why should it be up to them? They don't know what the people of the other country are like or what they want. It's a stupid system. But anyway, going away from that now, I want to get to the first question for you.
Okay.
And that is to do with Black Lives Matter. It's a big thing. And I just wanted to ask, what your views are on it, where you stand with it, and I guess how you think it could be resolved or where it's going.
Yeah, okay. It's funny to think that with such a question that you could ask someone, it in an implicit sense, anyone that listens or asks this question to anyone else, it is a loaded question. It's a question where the presumption in it on most of the questioner's behalf is it's already making out that the person that has any kind of different view, which is unwanted, it's actually more of an unpopular opinion. It becomes how should I say it? You can't answer or have a different opinion without appearing guilty or wrongful or sinful in some way.
Yes,
and that's
simply questioning something nowadays is completely off the table. You start questioning things, you're the bad person. You shouldn't be questioning. You should just follow and listen to the government or listen to these people and believe them.
Yeah. So this is, I think that is just one example of how it feels in the atmosphere of today's politics. And I will say I am for black people, I am for white people, I am for Asian people, I am for, define the word minorities, right? Just that word alone. So we consider Asian people minorities when there's probably far more Asians than there are white ethnicity on this planet. This is where politics are still muddied. This is where definitions of words become not words anymore with definitions, but more just quotes and comments, more like slang. I am not with the Black Lives Matter protests. If you were to ask me if I support racism, I would say no. If you ask me as well if I support women in general, I would say yes. And if you was to ask me if I support black people, I would say yes. It's really obvious answers here. And in any other answer that you would say no, if you about supporting other ethnicities or other sexes, it's quite obvious that that would be a type of racism or a type of sexism, but this is not what's being stated whatsoever, and that is why I first made a comment about the idea of a loaded question. So my view and what I've been seeing from Black Lives Matter in the last, it's since the beginning of this year, and my God, it's grown like into a big ugly mess. The mass of people that support this movement, which has both good intentions, but for a lot of other people too, bad intentions, I think it's really shook every country in this world today. It doesn't matter where you are. It is so prominent and so powerful that I'm pretty sure every single news media is covering this.
Oh yeah.
I I don't. I think where this is where it gets dangerous, and I believe it's dangerous because when you protest for any movement, and we've seen this in history, this happened repeatedly. The people that are all part of the same tribe, so to say, they actually have a lot of them have lots of different opinions. But the main opinions, the priority opinions, which are right, what is your decision on what side you are on? Because it's Black Lives Matter at the moment versus system, the government, right? The government system. That is what it's against. It's against anyone that is racist in any way. And as far as the way humans think, we always think in a dichotomy. It's black or white. It's left or right. And those views are the only ones that stand out and also make the group homogenous in a way where you'll have some people killing people and you have some people just holding up banners and flags. And then you have other people that are trying to make some kind of influence on social media, and they're not being confrontational. They're not hurting people. They are not the same as the malevolent people that cause a lot of harm. Or then you just have anarchists, the punks, that kind of mindset, the people that tear down statues and use graffiti. Every single one of these individuals, they have complex minds with a lot of the time very different sub opinions.
Yeah, it's it's well going. I just want to quickly say about the the anarchists, Antifa mainly. They're not anarchists, because anarchy is, it's you're going against the system. You don't want a ruler, no rulers. However, with Antifa and the anarchists that support Black Lives Matter, they want a government. They want the left in charge. So they're not true anarchists. And, you see them spray painting like in communist symbols, hammer and sickles, all over the statues, waving. I think it was in England, outside Number 10, when they were there doing the protesting. Some guy was waving a, communist flag, just freely. Like, it's clear that it has nothing to do with black people or black lives. That's the face of it. It sounds good. It draws people in, makes people want to support, a minority, because it sounds unfair, which it is. It's question sounds unfair. Black people are being discriminated against. Got police going out after them. But it has nothing to do with that. It's all a political strategy mainly against the American government and Trump. And because there's a lot of people get ideas from America and England. It's trading. It's constantly trading in ideas and
ideologies,
politics, and fashion and all that. England and America, that is.
And this easily ties in with my point as well, that you have the same you have some of the same opinions, the priority opinions that creates the group to be homogenous. So you do have Antifa along with people that don't support Antifa, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, it seems. And there are some conflict and upset between these, let's say, sub tribes inside this bigger monster of a tribe, which is BLM,
Yeah.
where you have the Antifa and these other people that think otherwise from Antifa. And that is what can cause chaos and confusion, and that is why it's such a horrible mess.
Yeah, going off the the different tribes within Black Lives Matter. It has all of a sudden attracted the entirety of the left's like sub sections, like LGBTQ, trans, all those types of ones, Antifa. It has just attracted, and like what you said, it's just piled in, and it's muddying and fuzzying what they actually want or what they're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah, and it seems that the motive, which is very dangerous, can end up just becoming an idea just to cause harm and chaos. At the end of the day, it can attract so many. It would attract far more extremists in a movement than it will passive people. And it's those passive people which, in my theory, and they will just leave. They will just leave and stop doing the protesting, and then you're left with the extreme left. And once the extreme left have more authority over towns and cities, and how we keep our history and our standards and our principles, everything can change so quickly. And it's actually quite scary to see how this has evolved in, well, we're in July right now. It's been 7 months when this started making a scene. It seems about probably 5 or 6 months, give or take. But
yeah,
in those few months, we've seen how major corporations, government, in highly influential, important people are, well, in my eyes, seem to be either scared or rooting for some massive change, and that's what these movements usually are. Why they're created.
Yeah, I think with the with the big corporations basically tacking on the BLM logo or symbols, or changing their descriptions on Twitter, I feel like that's mainly due to they're worried about people calling them out and then their sales dropping, or their establishments being attacked, burnt down, them losing money, obviously. And the social sort of attack and pressure that the people put on these corporations basically makes them, it forces them to do it. They probably don't want to do it, but they probably have to do it to survive.
Yeah, you do get this groupthink in corporations too. And again, with it reminds me, if I could make a connection here with religion. When religion can spread, it is spread from country to country, city to city. It happens quite slowly, but with religion, it changes culture too. But once you get a dominant religion within a city or country, again, you do have this social pressure to have to be a part of that tribe. You need to follow the same principles, the same rules, same standards, the same ideologies, otherwise you're exiled. And corporations are, well, naturally they will want to be part of something that is becoming a bigger and bigger tribe. And once corporations start to turn over to this tribe, then I believe with social media as well, this day and age, this tribe's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're going to find ourselves in a real serious issue. because there is no balance. Because as soon as corporations turn over, I'm willing to bet government turns over.
Well, going on about, social media and corporations basically turning over and, joining them, or, being them, being, the crazy left, far left, or BLM or whatever. That's already happening, and I believe that's already happened with certain things, like Facebook and Twitter being the most prominent ones at the moment. Because Twitter has been cracking down, removing people, censoring people, shadow banning, and removing tweets of, even the President of the United States, with some of the things he's been saying. And I feel like that's come off the back of him also putting an executive order in, making social media liable, for if you get wrongly accused of saying something wrong and your account gets removed, then you can sue the social media company for it.
Yeah.
I feel like it comes off the back of that as well. And with the Facebook, they're constantly removing conservative ads, or political stuff. They say they're non-political and they're non-biased and all this, but that's not true. And it's
impossible.
It is, yeah, because that's a stupid statement to make, because you've got people in charge, and those people are gonna have views, and they're gonna write algorithms, to remove certain things, censor stuff. So they're gonna put themselves in those algorithms that are then going to remove conservative or things that don't cooperate with what they've programmed that algorithm to do.
Of course, yeah.
And going from that goes into the Project Veritas report. Project Veritas, I'll have to, I think I've put up some information about it on the website, but it investigated Facebook, and I believe it had an undercover journalist, and they found out that the people within Facebook who monitor the ads, the little Facebook groups that go up, they found that people within Facebook were specifically targeting Trump supporters, and removing them and banning them.
Wow.
And using the algorithm to locate them, so they could then, look at what they're doing and then remove them if they were doing anything that might influence people into just, seeing reason, or, wanting to, get another group of followers in to follow Trump and support Trump. So that ideology of the left and the far left and Antifa and all that are seeping in, or have seeped into, certain corporations and major social media websites.
Major influence and power to be able to spread their ideologies even further. Like Facebook, just think how big of a company Facebook is. Twitter as well. It really is, like, in this day and age with politics now, social media is a bigger weapon than any other weapon human beings have ever had in their arsenal. It's bigger than nuclear bombs. We're not scared of nuclear bombs anymore. We're scared of how groups, tribes can now create social media with algorithmic code to brainwash. It's another word for brainwashing. It's conservative. It's what is it? It's converting the public into their ideologies without the public even noticing. It's this incognizant phenomena that not a lot of people are seeing.
Because we know what nuclear bombs do. They drop them, they explode, they kill loads of people and destroy land. With social media, like, you don't know who's behind it, you don't know who's making the posts, you don't know if what they're saying is true, like what you said, they're converting or manipulating people into believing something that isn't true, or that's, has some truth but is actually leading to something more sinister. It is scary, and it's happening, but it's a question that is never really brought up about within Parliament or governments. And I really think that sort of, view on social media should be spoken about more openly, because people just use it and think, oh yeah, I'll just post a website or post a little thing about my food, get a bunch of likes, but then the next thing you know, you're getting ads for support BLM. Okay, yeah, that sounds nice. Support that. Oh, now Antifa are following me. Okay, I guess I'll join them. Next thing you know, you got a black mask on and you're throwing bricks through windows.
yeah, not within the day.
No, not within the day. That probably takes a couple months.
Of course, yeah, but that is how it gets across. That it does happen to people, and it has, it can happen, it will happen. And I think just coming back to the power that social media has in converting people, the same strategy is used not just from the left wing but from the right wing too. And I think this is where people can really try their best in debate or conversation, or like podcasts like this that we're doing right now. And we must understand that all of the history that we have always tried to remember, to reflect on, to try and prevent from happening again. We're talking the Soviet Union with the communists. We're talking about the Nazis in World War One, World War Two, and where all these different things, they are all held by ideology, held by politics, and it's always been this dichotomy of left and right. And I just to quickly say as well, I find that a bit confusing as to why we only have left and right. There are other systems of government like liberal Democrats and such, but we're still getting this very strange cognitive dichotomy. It's a strange phenomenon. Actually, I haven't really researched on. I think I would like to, but I've never heard any other intellectual influencer mention why this is always repeating itself, why it's happening, and it's a hard one to answer. So it's good that we should recognize that this strategy and extremism and not being open-minded enough to have your mind changed, to have your mind changed by someone else's idea, it's a hard thing to try and be mindful of. And not only that, it's actually dangerous when you have your mind changed. That's why a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are stubborn. It's a very common thing. So both sides can do it, and I'm hoping in this podcast between me and you as well to try and support this, let's say, globalist idea that really a lot of people should be open-minded enough. And if someone has an argument on the other side which quite clearly is evident that it's a better argument, then maybe you should have your willingness and your open-mindedness to say, okay, I agree with that point. Maybe not convert to whatever their ideals are, but acknowledging these smaller pieces of right, well, I believe this to be true or this to be wrong. I think it's better for the world.
I agree with that. Listen to both sides. Don't instantly attack someone just because they have a different view to you. Hear them out. They might have something that, like you said, you agree with. It may not, you may not all of a sudden convert to their side, but you agree with some of their points they're on. So that brings a connection between those two people. And that's what's missing in the arguments today. It's all about, where you stand. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter about anything else. We don't give a crap about if you are against racism but don't support BLM. You're still a racist. You're a far right Nazi.
Yeah.
Or if someone on the left supports Black Lives Matter but doesn't support I don't know, some of the that doesn't support the violence or the extreme protesting that's going on. A right winger might say, "Oh, no, you're still part of the problem." No, they're just trying to support something that they believe is happening, and that is, the right thing to do.
Yeah, and it's also dangerous to fall for the logical fallacies that if let's so to say that we should always be using generalized terms, and that say two people are in the wrong. It's never just one person. It takes two to make an argument, or it takes two to cause a problem. That is very naive to believe in that, and to ignore that actually there are some very malevolent people out there. There are some people that are very much in the wrong, more so than others. And those people are people you can't actually really prevent from happening, but the best that we can do is to try and push our argument peacefully, because the idea of trying to control or have any kind of authoritarian power to have people change their mind, or to try and do your best to have someone be a particular way of what you think is a optimal human being is terrible. It never works. You can only bring a horse to water, but you can't have the horse feed, right? And a lot of people, especially seeing it from the left at the moment, and there are some in the right actually. You can see it, and it's very implicit. It's not explicit at all, and it's hard to see. But people think you can. Right? Why are these people doing this? They're all idiots. They are so in the wrong. All they need to do is stop doing it. We need to show our teeth, and we need to have a conflict. We need to fight it, and we need to. Everything they do, we must do it twofold, right? Because we need to win this. It's a war, and you can't stop conflict in politics. You can't stop these small tribal wars. Because it's inevitable, and it's what we are as like in the animal culture, like the human nature is to do this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The second question I'd like to ask you is about the coronavirus. And the face coverings being mandatory within shops now within the UK. The 24th of July it was implemented, and it's now part of the government's guidance to be mandatory. And I was just wanted to know your stance and what you think about the whole situation behind the face coverings.
Okay, yeah. So I am for it. I'm for this this policy that's put in place. So masks are mandatory in all commercial districts and stores, and also mandatory when picking up collection deliveries from food takeaway services. But it is not mandatory when eating in these catering environments, which that was actually a bit strange. But I think I'll get to that later. So I support it because the only cons I could think about with not supporting it is to do with the implicit connection to authoritarianism, and that's a very dangerous trait to have in a government. I support it, however, though, because I do believe it saves many lives. The percentage risk of people getting infected is greatly, greatly lower. And there is no, like, the evidence is refutable. It's very good stuff. And I think the pros and cons, the pros outweigh the cons, because I am very extroverted and very emotional, and I do believe in trying to save any life when possible. I don't even want to hurt a fly. Like, that's how connected I think we all are. And I think it would be ignorant to say, for example, that a fly has no feelings or any kind of cognitive awareness. So that's just an outlook on the way I think there. But I think the UK are very balanced in everything they put out in terms of policies and bills and laws, and it seems they always have been. I think there is a influence and connection with our country having a monarchy, a bit like I believe Sweden still has a monarchy as well. I would have to double check on that, but there's very few countries with a monarchy now, and we're seeing such massive differences between, say, the USA and the UK. We both have capitalist ideologies, and we both have democratic governments, in a way of freedom and in a way of expression, and having the public have their say, and having cabinets, having debates, the House of Parliament. It's all very similar, but there's some of these differences, and I'm happy with the policy of this mandate, because it would have been too close to authoritarianism if they was to ask you to wear a mask outside in the streets at all times. And it would be even far worse if you was to wear a mask at all times, even in your own home. So that is a very blatantly obvious manifestation of authoritarianism right there. So I don't think that the bill is impeaching on anyone's freedoms. Like, with the first law in Western culture was to respect all individuals as if divine, with their own feelings and beliefs, to be a sovereign individual. That has been paramount through Western culture and has created, I think where the UK and USA are the biggest powerhouses economically, in terms of strength as well, security, and just overall influence in the world. And I think I really do think it's this connection with the sovereign. So I think the Western culture that we have has a big power behind it to prevent authoritarianism with having this massive law, this policy that we have on each other, where it was very, very different in other countries, like in Russia or like in Kazakhstan and so on. And so I'm not that worried. I'm not that worried about it happening right about now, but I think we can become more worried when the policies and the governments and the influence that the left have over our governments. Then we could start worrying more when they have more influence over that. But I don't think we're there quite yet. So this mandate to have everyone wearing masks in stores, I think is not an issue.
Okay. I agree with the authoritarianism. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that'll ever happen in a Western country. But with the with the mandatory masks within shops, I think it still should be optional, no matter what. We've seen the data, we know what's been going on, and even reports that have come out recently to do with the how the coronavirus deaths, or even cases are recorded are wrong. We've seen it in America and in England. We've seen it. I believe the most recent one was that they were basically what happened if you were recorded, say, a couple months back to have coronavirus, then recovered, and then 2 months down the line you died of a gunshot, car accident, knife wound, whatever, you'd get put down as a COVID-19 death. And with the American recordings, I think the exact same thing happened, where if someone died from a gunshot wound, I actually have it up here on the Blaze. It says a 60-year-old man died from a gunshot wound to his head. He was listed as a COVID-19 death in Florida. The recordings of deaths of COVID-19 are clearly inaccurate. There's been multiple recordings of them, and even the BBC have reported them. There was like a minute segment I saw, so it wasn't that long. They didn't want to report on it that long, but it was definitely on mainstream news. I can say that. So with the mandatory face coverings, I think yes, it's not gonna lead to, you know, a fucking fascist government who's gonna, you know, take control of everyone. You have to do this, do that, and, you know, control your lives with everything they tell you to do. But I still think it should be optional, because we know the inaccuracies of the testing, the recordings, and even the inaccuracies of how well the masks protect you. Because we see on some packaging of the blue and white face masks, the surgical ones that you see people using mainly in hospitals, on certain packages of those, it even says it does not protect against COVID-19. And on generic packaging of different masks, it says it does not prevent infections or diseases being, you know, contracted to the wearer. So with all that data and even facts, I personally do not believe that this virus should be a pandemic, and should not have these rules being implemented mandatory. Everything should be optional, and should be it should mainly be targeting the elderly, or the severely, you know, ill, you know, people who have underlying health conditions, respiratory problems, heart problems, immune, what's it called?
Immunodeficiencies or immunovulnerabilities.
Yeah, and with obese people. I think it should mainly be targeted at those people, and even then it should be optional, up to them if they want to do it.
Okay, so tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like to me that you are making the appeal that the government are being neglectful with the power that they have because of the inaccuracy of risk of coronavirus. So you're basically saying that you don't think, you think there's actually a danger? Do you think there's a danger in how the government can make things mandatory so quickly and what seems to be carelessly?
I do see a potential future danger with that power, but currently in its state, I don't think anything of the sort of, you know, authoritarianism would happen now or within 5-10 years even.
Well, what I would ask to play devil's advocate, so to say, is why shouldn't we just be more careful than we should, despite the inaccuracies of the data, why is it a bad thing, in your opinion, to be too careful? What are the risks of having these mandatory masks, and do you think it really does impinge on people's freedoms when it's not necessary?
I do think it does impinge on people's freedoms, and I'm not saying you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't wear a mask. It's your option, and that's what it should be. It should be an option.
Mm.
It shouldn't be mandatory, and it should be, even with shops, it should be an option for the shop owner, or the establishment owner, to say, okay, if you want to go in our shop, you have to wear a mask. We'll provide them for you, so you can go in, shop around, come out.
And on the contrary, maybe you don't have to wear a mask. That should probably be a shop's freedom to say so.
Exactly, yes. That should be a shop's freedom as well. It should be, say, okay, we don't care if you wear a mask. Come in, shop, do what you want. Because with the shop assistants and people who work in the shops, they don't have to wear a mask because they are, close proximity and work alongside each other for, like, say, 6 to 8 hours a day. Now, to me, that doesn't really make sense, because those people are then going to go out, maybe at the weekend, go to a different shop, go outside, I don't know, they might have 2 jobs. They might have to go work somewhere else. So either way, it is going to be spread.
Yeah, and they still have contracted the disease, whether they've had it before or not. They're still carriers.
It's the whole lot seems like it's a it seems like the government is placating the public. I feel like they're just doing this because initially they wanted to do a herd immunity, where
and they never explicitly said it though, did they?
There was reports on it, and it was clear that that's what they wanted to do, because nothing was implemented until now. Like,
I
4 months.
To let you know as well, I believe that they were going for that herd immunity strategy, whether people liked it or not.
Yeah. I think some other European countries have done that as well. Apparently, also here in the UK, we have the worst death rate. Again, that comes down, I believe, to the inaccuracies of the testing and recording of deaths in the UK. Also, I would like to just go on to a bit of a rant here to do with the COVID-19 crap. I work in a hospital. I work in the NHS. And it is now mandatory for staff to wear masks whilst they are at work. No matter where you go, you have to wear it. Whereas before, it was only if you were on the wards you had to wear one. If you were walking in the corridors or visiting offices, you didn't have to wear one. But now it is mandatory throughout the entirety of the hospital. Doesn't make much sense to me because, again, going to the shops, shop assistants and shop staff don't have to wear one, even though they work in close proximity. You could argue that, it's a hospital, you're more likely to get it. How come it wasn't implemented before then in the hospitals? Instead, they just decided to shut down the hospitals, use them for COVID patients, which literally they only had maybe a maximum of 10, 20 at a time. They even built Nightingale hospitals in London and throughout the UK, which only saw, I believe, the ones in London, which you would think would probably get the most amount of patients.
10, 20 of what?
Patients with COVID-19.
Patients at a time. Okay.
Patients at a time. And within London, where you'd probably expect to see, the most patients going into the Nightingale hospitals, which were specifically built to draw the overload basically that the normal hospitals were expected to see only saw 7 patients. Then it went into standby. This is the one in London. And now it is being, I think maybe about a few weeks ago, got reported that it was being turned into a cancer treatment hospital or a cancer treatment centre.
Okay.
So all the evidence there, to me, it is clear that this is not as big as the media is making it out to seem, because they are scaremongering with all their reporting on deaths. They're not saying who died anymore, by the way. At first, they did used to report on age and if they had underlying health conditions when this was first happening. Now it is just the total deaths globally, locally, within England, and who's contracted it where. It is clear that it is not as big of a thing as it should be. It shouldn't be a pandemic. And it is more akin to the flu than anything else.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of points.
It was a lot. It was a bit ranty, I will say.
Yeah, and I think this is good though. The thing is, one of the things that stood out to me in that whole rant you gave off was how coronavirus is more akin to the flu than any other disease. Before I get into that though, I just want to share my acknowledgements are the same with you. I do believe the government were definitely going for a herd immunity strategy, and it's a strange phenomena that all the public can see is when you'd think the bigger the power of government, the more competent these said people or cabinets will be. You look at the economy, you look at the culture, you look at the inventions and the advancements in research, and you think, well, we're in good hands, right? Wrong. You gotta think more laterally. A person to quote from Dr. Edward de Bono, he highlights that not like power in government or corporation doesn't necessarily mean that the groupthink that they have, which are on top as the leaders that make the decisions, are any more smarter than what they are, or any more open-minded, which you need a lot of open-mindedness and creativities to come up with some good decision making. And for the most part as well, when having a cabinet, and not only that, especially in such a democratic and free country, anything can go left versus right. You have the liberals versus the conservatives. You can have a bill or a prime minister put in place from year to year, and we have different things being enacted on. That's what makes the country so, well, I think, resilient. But the problem with that, there's the pros, but the cons is that we have chaos, and we actually lose some control. And control can be good, but obviously too much of it again is too bad. But I think when it comes to a pandemic, so like a disease is coming out from China, and it seems to be spreading quickly out, and now it's gone to other countries. People believe that, the government should be straight on this. We're one of the best countries in the world. God, no. It's just, you don't know what's going on in the inner workings with Boris Johnson, how he's cooperating with his cabinet, what people he's talking to, then how the cabinet is then talking to the reporters and about how they can get scientists and researchers to give their opinions about the matter. It's actually a very slow process.
It is.
And I think to be open-minded about that and to understand that actually our governments and our corporations that we have aren't actually as resilient and as intelligent as we think. is a really good way to look at life. I think it's a good bit of wisdom.
Yeah.
Um,
And what people need to know is that with with this disease, the coronavirus, they knew about it before they said it was a pandemic or before any reports came out about it. They knew about this in, say, November last year. They were keeping an eye on it, and then as time goes on, they see it spreading. Then they bring out a report, talk about it, and then it goes global to public and the media.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that they knew already. And putting it in that perspective, that does make me feel inclined to be on your side on this matter. Like, to have that much time, you would have plenty of time to think, and I think that does just put more fuel to the fire and evidence that it was just the herd immunity strategy.
Yeah.
They save more money, have a better economy, and they have an advantage over any other country that tries to go and lock down beforehand. That's a big. You think about that. That's a big strategy decision to make, isn't it? Like, we're going to go and lock down and risk our economy, but potentially stop the virus from spreading ever again in our country.
Yeah.
Or do we try and save our economy a bit better and just embrace the virus? Either decision's got that risk to it, so that's quite a tough one there. But going back to the point with the virus being more akin to the flu, there is evidence and there is science behind showing that, like, the flu and like pneumonia, all these symptoms are the same. It's a viral infection. But when we can talk about like percentages and statistics, and this would be why I'm probably against trying to talk about coronavirus being, say, just as what would I call it, as dangerous as the flu, right? So I think it's more dangerous than that. And if you had, it's that whole thing that we all know about. When we talk about the R0, the infection rate, and we also try and talk about the risk of developing the pneumonia in both lungs, depending on age or weight or underlying conditions. I think that the flu is near harmless in comparison to coronavirus, and just 1% or 2% of an infection rate, like the R0, makes such a massive difference. And the rare side effects you can get from the flu, where people can die from the flu, again, is always related with old age or previous conditions, like as usual. The coronavirus has a higher percentage on all of the fronts of fatality and all of the possible risks and conditions and symptoms you can gain from it. And if you were to see, try and use this as an example, say the fatality rate between coronavirus and the flu was 50%, right? On either side. Let's imagine coronavirus had 51% of fatality rate compared to the flu, and flu was just 50%.
Okay.
We don't look at the graph or the chart in numbers altogether. What we look at is we look at the overlap of the analysis. We look at the overlap of the statistic of what we're recording, and you'll see with a 50% chance versus a 51% chance, the overlap is a lot greater in the middle of the graph of the whole statistics of people dying from the fatality rate. And a lot of people forget that when percentages and statistics like that become greatly multiplied by such a high population of people, uh, 1% isn't just 1%. You know, it's greatly undermined how we see that information,
Mm.
and I think just even the smallest percentage of difference between the flu and coronavirus or any other kind of disease is, in my opinion, altogether, I think it is dangerous to try and compare coronavirus to the flu.
Mm. I do. I see. Yeah, I see your point with the comparison between the different diseases, because diseases are different. They have different infection rates, different causes, different outcomes. They can cause different things. It does boil down to the recording and reporting, though, of the coronavirus and say the flu. I'm going to compare it to the flu because it's the closest we have.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the flu can cause it can cause loads of different issues. I forget what you actually call it, but issues during say a hospital visit. It can cause pneumonia, which is that's deadly. But for old people or people who have health conditions, especially respiratory problems. So if you were to report on the flu as much as you do on the coronavirus, the flu would be put down as a pandemic, or people would be terrified of catching the flu.
Okay.
It does come down to the reporting and the power that the media do have with these numbers that they give out. There should be disclaimers, and also, reports on where they get this information from, or who has died and what they had wrong with them. We need to know age and health condition as well with these people, because they stopped reporting on that, like I said before, ages ago. Now it's just the big number, the total deaths globally and also locally within England. That's what caused that's what caused the panic, and also the public. I guess it's not really the public themselves. It's the global governments and the media pushing a story that then the public take in upon themselves, that then circles back round for them to push against the government. Then the government enforces that push that the public want, which is the masks, the mandatory masks. Although I do feel like that with the all of a sudden, I like how they say guidance as well. Guidance implies, for me anyway, that it's guidance. It's optional. It's we're guiding you to do this, but you don't have to do it.
It is consensual and is up for the participant.
Yeah.
Their willingness, guidance. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do know that if they say a rule, or it's mandatory, they're going to get backlash for that. So I understand that they have to say guidance to hide that. But then it's all these different layers and levels that play upon each other that really bug me personally, and just clearly show incompetence within the public and the government.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like, I voted Conservative, but I'm not afraid to question them. I think you should question everything.
Of course, and it's in this questioning that you're risking being offensive
It,
towards the opposing side.
yeah.
It takes some courage, but if if we don't have the courage to question their beliefs in a discourse,
Mm,
then we are at great risk of tyranny.
yeah.
Tyranny, that is where tyranny manifests from, is when people have been restricted of all their rights or their
Mm,
freedoms because we've let a superpower, an authority, have too much control because we didn't have the courage, enough courage, to try and ameliorate a problem as soon as we see it coming, any evidence, any clue of it.
mm,
And I do think that with the information, the technology we have today, our public have become more likely to do the questioning, and I think it really goes to show with the left wing, the Black Lives Matter protests, seeing how quickly that evolved in just a matter of months.
yeah.
It goes to show how drastically different it is from what it was in the past. And we are a lot more intelligent and more informed nowadays. And especially in Western culture, we've promoted an open mind, we've promoted creativity, we've promoted art.
Mm,
And I believe with this open mindedness, with this creativity, the critical thinking that most of the public, it's hopefully most of the public, and what it's looking like today of education, is pushing our society to question more and more. And I'm hopeful and I'm also confident that we'll be able to dissipate any let's say any opportunity that the government or a a raving ideology comes in, and we can stop it. We
mm,
can just stop it because we're being open-minded enough to question.
yeah. Yeah, that's I feel like that's probably one of the main arguments of anything today. It like question things. Like if thing is if you question anything that the left do, they're just gonna call you racist or, right wing Nazis. Um,
Mm.
Whereas, and I do get this from the right as well. Like if the left question the right with anything they do, they call them crazy, far
Libtards.
right, libtards. It's this back and forth that, like I said, it's volatile and it shouldn't be. You should be able to
Yes.
question both sides, agree on certain things from both angles, and therefore meet in the middle and implement something that is the best for everyone. But that will
Precisely.
never happen.
No, it's we can only get as close as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Uh, if you believe that can never happen, well, that to me seems more of a pessimistic view. Um,
Mm.
and I think it's good every now and then. I mean, especially it really is different. This era, this generation of people, everything that's happening, technology rising,
Yeah.
intelligence, it really, really is different. And to be more positive in times like these, positivity again can be another super weapon. Sometimes it doesn't always work out like that, but oh God, a podcast on its own. Honestly, I could talk a whole episode about this, but this
Me
can
too.
link in with religion as well. If we're talking about
Yeah.
um, say being the best person you can possibly be and being the most open-minded and having faith, that's what it is. It's mostly about faith in our people to try and do what's right.
Mm.
Then I do think there can be a world where we can ameliorate these problems quickly and efficiently as well, and try and prevent as least harm as possible to all of these wonderful people around the world. And I think religion, like, it does depend as well. One that I could be an advocate for is Christianity. Religion is a very refutable religion that can help people with the Old Testament with rules, and give them standards. But yeah, like again, I'll talk about that some other time. Maybe if we do another podcast.
Yeah, that would be good to talk about. Religion, links between people, cultures, societies, different things. And even then, I just thought about, going on to say, because of recent things that's happened with space. This is going way off now, but going on.
Let's go for it, man.
Going on to
segues, I love it.
Going on to space. We've had Elon Musk's SpaceX launch their Falcons and Dragon pods with astronauts in up to the ISS. So that's promising. They're building their starships to go to Mars. That can go on to, planetary politics, where me personally believes in globalism, but only on other planets, not Earth. Like that I could talk about for ages, but I feel like that'll be for a different day.
And what a wacky episode that would be.
Let's talk
about space politics. I have a lot of questions about that. It's a very intriguing point to bring up there.
That would be great. And I feel like Brandon would probably, he would have loads of information on that.
You see, with Brandon, he's got a real good character. He's a very novel person when it comes to, I would have to say, anything that holds any intellectual debate. He's like the Eddie Murphy of debate, and I love him for that. So he'll be a really, really entertaining guest to have on your podcast.
He'd be great for that. But I guess, do you have any more statements or closing things you'd like to say before I feel like we're coming up to hour and a half mark now. I feel like that would be pretty good to end this first episode of the Madding Machine podcast on. But if you've got any closing things you'd like to say, feel free.
Yeah. Basically, I wanted to bring up that if there's any more episodes of this podcast, and hopefully there is, because I just want to say I've had a lot of fun, and it's been very exciting coming up to this podcast, and it's been very exciting for me to kind of set up my own little ritual in my bedroom. I've got this whole thing going on, and everything's. I feel quite organised right now,
yeah.
And there's also this different feeling when you're talking about these matters. But you're recording it, and you're recording it more for a purpose. Whereas when we talk usually in private, you do not get that feeling whatsoever, and it feels really, really good.
Yeah. Like if you talk in private, it usually deteriorates to a joke or something novel, and then it goes on to something else.
Yeah, because I do believe that having these talks, it does take a more than average amount of energy to come up with such critical thinking.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have just had a hard day's work, or it's getting late and we're tired, and we just let's end this with a joke and let's do some small talk. But yeah, I think that totally probably is the reason why this is so much. It feels really good to talk about it. It's more fun, more entertaining.
Oh yeah.
And following with the podcast, as I was just mentioning earlier, is that there's this problem today. Well, in fact, it's been a problem in history for a long time. Any kind of civil discourse you want to have about politics or science, because these are created by human beings, like manifested from human beings, we always correlate it with science and logic and rationality. And for the most part, in the civil discourse, statistics, right, that statistics come up. There's that guy, you're having a conversation, a good conversation, you're going back and forth, and then suddenly he brings up the statistics sheet, right? Oh, like that's such a bummer when that can happen. And I think with how we've done our first episode, we kind of promoted freedom of speech even more further.
Yeah.
Because we haven't tied statistics as such a like a divine law in in this podcast. And maybe we can bring up a couple here and there, but I think what's good about this is that we're not going to be intolerable, or we're not going to just deny anyone's argument because they haven't put evidence up front.
Yeah. It's you need to give people their freedom of expression and their own views on things, as long as they express that they are their own beliefs and views. Then I think that's absolutely fine. If they say something that is, they say something that they believe but they portray it as fact, then that's going to be an issue. That's going to be a problem. And I'm going off here. I'm like putting my train of thought into something else that I want to talk about, but I'm not. I'm gonna stop there and actually just steer off and end this.
Yeah. Can't help it, can we?
No, I know. You do it for so long, you get into this rhythm that you just want to carry on and just blurt out everything that you think or know. But yeah, this has been a really good episode, really good first podcast that we've done, and I've actually really enjoyed it, seeing different views and also talking openly about what I think and believe, and actually just putting it out there. It really, because you never know, it might resonate with someone, it might disagree with someone. Either way, it's going to make someone think and either push something that they believe in even further, or pull them out of it and make them think differently. And I
think it would be a good thing to say that the objective of these podcasts is to have you think.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and is brain food. It's good for you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's brain food, and it's to make you think and question things.
And sometimes with something you already believe in, it can make your argument stronger, and it can make you just that more believing in what you believe in, or maybe even just question it.
Exactly.
But I just want to say, sounds a bit cheesy now, but I do feel more closer to you, more connected to you, and having this experience, I think, has been amazing. And I just wanted to say as well that I miss seeing you because of this whole quarantine thing going on right now. Is far nicer and more therapeutic for us if we can meet up soon, which hopefully we can. But I think I'm hoping that these podcasts is a good outlet for us to just have that that intimacy, I would call it personally.
Yeah, it's that good personal outlet, good personal connection for us.
Yeah. So there you go.
But yeah, thanks for coming on. You'll probably be on another podcast down the line, maybe the next one. Who knows? Probably ask someone else to come on the next one. But yeah, it's good talking to you.
Come on.
Yeah. It was good talking to you, and see you soon. And whoever's listening, see them soon with a new podcast. And also, I've got some plans for videos coming out as well. They're going to be more like just me blurting out what I think. So that should be interesting. But they'll probably be further down the line. I'll probably do more podcasts before then. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Charlie.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, see you soon.